There are no rules. You can do whatever you want with your small business. I do think it is great for you to use all of the selling points you have. Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast. S.O.B as in small-owned business. I promise we are not calling you guys names. Before we get started today, just a little bit of housekeeping. Thank you so much for listening. We would really appreciate it if you left us a review wherever you're listening. It helps us get in front of other small business owners so we can help them feel comfortable and confident when it comes to doing their own marketing. Vivian, what are we talking about today?
All right, so today, back by popular demand, we have Bray from Sweet Rose Waxing Company. If you guys remember, the last time we had her on our podcast, we were actually talking about rebranding. So she has a spa here locally in Summerville, South Carolina, and she was going through the transition of rebranding her business. But instead today, we've invited her back on to talk about marketing and promoting your business as a minority-owned business, because I think this is probably one of those things where perhaps you have a small business that can be promoted in this way and maybe you're just not doing it. And hint, hint, ladies, if you are a female-owned business, you are in that minority-owned small business. And so we don't want you to miss out on resources that you potentially have available to you just because you're not thinking of yourself in this particular category. So, hey, Bray, hey.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
We are so excited to have you back on. As most people know, you and I are great friends, so it's always good to have a good friendly conversation on here. Before we get started, or actually, I guess, let's open this conversation by saying, question for you, Bray. As a woman of color who owns a small business, how do you feel it has impacted the way you promote yourself? Like how would you say it's changed the way that you go about marketing your business?
Or has it at all?
That's
right?
good. Yeah, good point.
Honestly, it hasn't really impacted so much. I do get a lot of people asking, is this a small-owned business? Is this a minority-owned business? Who owns this business? And I take it from there. And however it comes to me is how I market myself, how I network myself, my business, and that's pretty much it. I just base it off how it comes to me, and not so much of pushing out.
Yeah, so if people are like asking, hey, is this a Black-owned business? Hey, is this a woman-owned business? Then you're like, yes, of course. But you're not going to start that conversation with that information.
Right. No, I typically don't. Not because I'm ashamed or anything. It's because everyone has certain things that they're looking for, and I'm willing to give them what they're looking for from me. Exactly. Like if I can give you that information, I will give you that information. But mainly, it's whoever comes to me about whatever they're looking for in that moment. That's the information I'll give.
I do love that there's a kind of like a give and take to this, right? So it's not like you said, it's not like you have a canned verbiage that you approach somebody new with to say like, hey, by the way, let me throw all this stuff out there. And then hopefully you'll say, oh yeah, I want to support that type of business. Instead, it's almost like you let their questions dictate where you start that conversation and then you lean into that. And I do think that's where, as small business owners, maybe you feel the pull to lead with, I'm a minority-owned business. For those of you that are listening that don't know, Chelsea and I are actually Hispanic, and so that's the one thing I know shocking because I'm so, like, pale, but we do come in this shade. The one thing that's interesting is we don't really go out there and you know, put on our website like, "Hey, we're minority owned." Now, I will say after doing some of the research for this episode, I was on some of these small business administration websites, and there are a lot of resources out there. And I am rethinking. I do think that we're going to get certified and then be able to put that on the website and just kind of let people know, like, hey, we do fall into this category. But on top of you guys just being able to promote yourself as a business, they do have quote unquote like special loans they say that you could get, or also if you have certification, I know that the government is required to do a percentage of their, what do you call it, contracts with small or minority owned businesses. And so there are other advantages to that.
Absolutely. And Vivian, I feel like you're skipping ahead
Oh, I'm
for
sorry.
for this conversation, because we actually are going to go through a list of resources for you guys as minority owned businesses. But I was asking Bray some questions.
Please go ahead. I don't mean to skip ahead.
Well, my next question, though, Bray, you already answered, because I was going to ask if you've seen customers come in to Sweet Rose specifically looking to support minority owned businesses. And you said yes. Like, is that a
Mhm.
common occurrence, or?
Yeah, absolutely. It
Yeah.
happens every day.
Yeah.
I do have it on my Google account that I am
Mhm.
a Black-owned business, a woman-owned business. So whenever they come in, they'll be like, "Oh, I see that this is Black-owned." Yes, ma'am, it is. I'm the owner, and the conversation goes from there. For instance, today I went to go get some coffee, and one
Mhm.
of the girls that I see almost every day, she goes, "Oh, I didn't know that you owned the business." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't say it often enough, but yeah, I do own the business. That's why I work so much."
Yeah.
um, so I know personally I don't go out and say, "Hey, I own a business,"
Mhm.
but my face is out there. I talk about it all the time, but I don't. If they come to me and ask me about it, I'll tell them.
Bray's like, "Do you really think that I'd be working this hard if I didn't own the
Yeah,
business? I'd be working this hard for somebody else."
Yeah.
yeah. Which I've done it. I've done it, but not no more. I'm done. It's all me.
I love that. Can I have multiple things to say. If you haven't watched the episode when we talk about rebranding with Bray, go watch that episode. I'm going to mention it because in that conversation, we talked about Bray's new branding and how her focus for Sweet Rose is personalization and giving her customers what they want. I think what you said earlier when you said, I will give them what they want from me, that is a
Mhm.
great example of your branding being such a core part of your business. It's not about, oh, hey, I'm a minority owned business, which there's nothing wrong with doing that. Again, if
Right.
that's what you want your unique selling point to be, great. That's great for you. But as a brand, Sweet Rose is about giving her customers what they want. So you're here to say, oh, you're looking for a minority owned, you're looking for a Black owned business, you're looking for a woman owned business. That's who I am, after you've stated that that's what you're looking for. So that's a great example of branding being on point.
I also love that she mentioned too the Google business profile
Mm.
and being able to update that. So if you guys have not recently gone in there and looked at what your options are to update your profile, please do so, because I think they've added quite a few categories. I believe veteran owned is one of them, Chelsea, minority owned. I think there may even be one for what
LGBTQ plus.
Yeah.
When we were discussing this conversation about we're going to do this topic, Vivian had said, but what about veteran owned? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, you're saying minority, but like veterans aren't minorities. I'm like, Y'all, you're thinking too much about this. So a minority, when it comes to minority-owned businesses, is going to be a business owned by a group of people or a person from a group that is represented less than 51% of the time. So like 49% of the time. So in this scenario, veteran is a minority-owned business. Veteran is considered a minority, just like people of color, minority, woman-owned, minority, LGBTQ+, that's going to be considered a
I
minority.
feel like you're getting a little spicy towards me.
I'm not getting, I don't mean to be getting spicy. I'm just saying
You're like,
misconception.
yeah. Well, and I'm glad that you brought that up and that it's based, I am glad that you brought up what they base their
Yes.
stipulations on, because I do think that it's a common misconception for some,
Yes.
like an old lady like me, okay, in her 40s. I do think minority owned, I often think Hispanic owned, Black women owned, or something like that. I very rarely think like veteran owned, right? Like I think that's just like a category that they have, but I'm glad that you clarified and you're informing all of us, non-informed people.
I want to make sure small business owners, if you think you're not a minority because you're not a person of color, but you are like a veteran, you are considered a minority. So you can get these resources. You can label yourself as a minority owned business. Like, I don't want you guys missing out on ways to differentiate yourselves as business owners.
And take full advantage of those. I mean, if they have it on Google Business Profile where you can tag yourself, if that's something you think is important to do, then definitely, we encourage everybody to go in there you probably want to go in there every 6 months just to be sure, because Google does go in and update stuff quite a bit.
So, Bray, you updated your Google profile so that it says you're minority-owned business. But I also want to mention, at Sweet Rose, all of your employees are people of color as well. Obviously, I don't think you did that on purpose.
I love the people that I have working for me. I've had an assortment of people, different ethnicities, working for me. It's just this group of girls have been with me now for a year, 2 years. I am actually looking to hire or to train, more people, anybody. But this is the group that I have. They're great. Everyone loves them. They're very, how can I say? They're very open. They see and talk to anybody,
which I think is super important for, like a esthetician.
that we're well versed with everyone. Yeah.
I do think I love where we're at now in small businesses, where diversity is it's very important to everybody, right? That everyone kind of has equal opportunity to run businesses and to manage and do all of that. Because I will say, coming from a corporate background, like I said, I've been doing that for a long time, and it still isn't as prevalent in the corporate world. And I think that's what draws me into the small business side of things, where I'm just like, there are people out there that are doing just like some kick-ass stuff, because like they don't have to fit in boxes. Like you can just, you have a business idea, you open it, you can hire people that are the best qualified for what they're doing. And I think that's the part of it where I love seeing that side of it, as opposed to the other side, which I think takes a little longer to to catch up sometimes, the corporate side of it.
Are you a small business owner feeling overwhelmed by marketing? We understand. That's why we created the S.O.B community just for you. Imagine having access to expert marketing advice every week through our interactive Zoom calls. Network with fellow small business owners in our community, share valuable insights, and grow together. Dive into our comprehensive training videos covering everything from social media to SEO. And all this for just $50 a month. Empower your small business without breaking the bank. Join the S.O.B community today. Small business owners, you may be feeling a little iffy about waving your flag out there and saying, I'm a minority-owned business. Again, like we're talking about right now, Bray only brings that up when people are looking for that information. You can do it like that. You can be very vocal and very open about who you are as well. I think it's important to consider that there are more opportunities to create and build a community and build a connection with audience members when you do focus on those minority groups, just because, you guys are experiencing things in the same way. I'm not saying everyone's experience is the same, but I'm saying you guys have something that connects you in a way that they're more willing to be open to you and willing to take that chance with you as a small business.
Yeah, I do think also, Chelsea, one of my favorite things, just as an example of that, is when Chelsea sends me these like reels on Instagram where it's like a Hispanic guy that's like explaining, things all Hispanic people understand from their childhood, right? And then he rattles off like just cultural things that people like, would do growing up. There is something that it's familiar. And I think that's where, like you're saying, Chelsea, whether that be that you're obviously the one that kind of sticks out to me is if you're a veteran owned business, obviously that's a very different experience, right? Having served in the armed forces in some type of way, it's a very different experience than like living that civilian lifestyle. And so you already have that connection where someone feels like if you're deemed a veteran owned business, they happen to be a veteran too. They feel like, oh, we have a similar background or experience, and therefore maybe they understand my needs a little better.
I agree to what you said, Vivian. Having that background and connecting with a lot of people, with my clients, I have a lot of business owners, and we connect in a lot of different ways, not just being a minority in different ways. And we just talk about what, as a business owner, that we go through on a daily basis. It could be anything, finance, it could be uh, clientele, and it could just really be anything and how things work in the business world. So I agree to that. Having my clients know that I'm the business owner and them being business owners as well, we connect that way. We talk about it all the time. It's something that's one of our key points. Like whenever they come in, how's business? Great. What happened this month? This was what's going on. I'm like, oh, same thing. Connection in that way, and networking. All the best networking as well. Quick, but great.
Y'all, again, if you're not crazy about networking, I get it, but guess what? That's the easiest way to get your name out there.
And I'm just
Yes.
going to plug as a reminder, y'all, we do have our S.O.B small owned business community. If you are looking, like Bray said, it helps to be able to talk about that stuff with other people that are going through it because they understand, all of the important things that come with these decisions. And I feel like the conversation is probably way more in depth because you feel like, hey, when I tell this person that, like, it's a pain to I'm struggling to hire people because the pool is just like, dwindling, or I feel like people aren't as qualified or whatever it is. I do know those connections. It's nice when you have someone on the other end that says like, "Hey, me too. Like, I hear you." Right. So we do have our SOB community. If you're looking for a group of other small owned businesses to talk to about this kind of stuff, we have, mostly marketing conversations centered around that, but you can make some great connections there. So just a friendly reminder.
You can create a community for minorities without excluding people, okay? Without excluding others. I want to make that very clear. So, in case you're thinking, oh my God, I don't want to say I'm a woman owned business because I don't want men to not come to my business, that's not going to happen. Okay, maybe it would happen a little bit, but do you really want, let me not even go there. I'm sorry. My point is, you can create a community without excluding others. It does not have to be like an exclusive club.
Now, I'm glad you did bring that up because I do think that is where some people, it's a very, I think it could be a very touchy subject just because, like you said, they want to be sure that there's diversity on all ends and that they're not excluding people. But there is a way. I will say this. I think just like we always talk about niching down, right? So, like, you can be broad in your business, or you can niche down and say, this is the type of person that I want to serve. In the same way, you can do that with approaching this minority owned type of label to it. And what I mean is, for example, I know there are Facebook groups for people that want to support, whether that be LGBTQ plus or whether that be Hispanic owned, or on the other end, like, hey, if you're Hispanic and you own a small business and you're a woman, then there are Facebook groups that are tailored to that as well. So I think it's not so much, it's like what Bray said, it's not so much that you're leading with it, but if it's something that somebody wants to say, I have a budget and I would prefer to spend my dollars with a small business owner that aligns with what I'm looking for, then whether that be veteran owned or whatever it is, then you if that's you, then you want your name to be in the hat for that. So I do think that it's like you said, it's not like you're saying, hey, I can't service everybody and I'll turn people down, but you're just saying like, hey, if you happen to be looking to support a small business owner that's also a minority owned business, then I kind of fit that category too.
Before we go into resources, I just really quick want to say, if you're a minority owned business, there are 3 ways you can take your marketing. You could say, my brand is for and about my community. So I'm all about LGBTQ plus, I'm all about people of color. You could go that way. You could do what Bray is doing and say, my brand isn't focused on my minority community, but I do include that information. I do bring it up with said community if they're looking for that information. Or you could say, I'm not bringing up the fact that my brand is minority owned at all. No one needs to know. You could do that. That is an option. There are no rules. You can do whatever you want with your small business. I do think it is great for you to use all of the selling points you have. So I would shy away from not having that information available at all, just because, again, that is a unique selling point. So let's talk about resources for small business owners that are minority owned. Bray, do you have any resources that you have found for minority owned businesses that you want to share, or just really any resources at all that you use?
I've just been doing a lot of networking, going to small businesses around Somerville, talking to them, and just shopping with small businesses and just exchanging
Yeah.
services and stuff like that.
Do you utilize Facebook groups? You utilize Facebook groups to kind of like get your name out there, don't you? Are
I
any of them
do.
specific to minority owned?
No, not right now. I haven't gone in a deep dive into
Mhm.
the Facebook groups yet, but I should. That's a good point. I should do that. I'll look for some.
I think we should also remember that Bray, again, just went through a big rebrand. She
Yeah.
went from being a franchise owner to being her 100% owned small business. So she's starting from scratch.
Yeah,
She is starting over. So
starting level one.
yeah.
Still at
She's like,
level
"Can you
one.
please give me time, let me get through."
Which honestly, I love. I love that honesty because, Vivian and I are on here every week and we're telling you guys things that you can do to umph up your marketing. And you're probably sitting here like, oh my God, Vivian, Chelsea, like, I don't have time to do this. We understand. Prioritize. We just want to help you guys. So whenever you are ready, you can sit down and say, Vivian and Chelsea said I should try this. So let me try that. So, resources for small business owners for minorities. Vivian, do you have any you want to start this conversation off with?
Yeah, remember you said I mentioned them at the beginning of this episode. You said I jumped ahead. Yeah. So the Small Business Administration, the SBA.gov, is a really big one, y'all. I think that's the first place I would go to if I were thinking about whether you're looking to certify or you're just looking to see if it's worth your time to certify. My understanding, so when I looked, because like I said, I do think that we're going to go ahead and get certified as a minority owned business. And there is an application and all of that. There are 2 routes for you to go about doing that. So I do think there is a time allocation that you need to know about up front. And then also there is a small fee to it. But once you kind of look to see if the resources, if it benefits you, I think then you're able to make that judgment if it's worth your time to go through all of that. For us, things that I liked and I noticed was if you're a woman minority owned business, there's a women small business or a women business chamber. I think
Mhm.
that's really great. You can join that annually. And it helps to just stay up to date with things that are going on in, women-owned businesses and stuff, and then you do get, like, a discount off of that membership or off of your certification if you join that first, but there are lots of resources out there, and then on top of it, I think being able to look at grants are a big thing and, all of that.
Yeah, some examples of grants would be the Minority Development Business Agency. They have grants out there. AT&T has a supplier diversity program. There are a lot of also big brands that are looking to help small business owners and have grants available. The information that I found said there were 3 ways to get a certification. You could go to the National Minority Supplier Development Council and get a certificate there. You can get federal certificate. You could get a certificate from your federal government or state and local government. Just so you know, there are 3 ways to do that. Most Chamber of Commerce websites have that listed, so you can find that information. And Bray already brought it up in this episode. A lot of social media platforms, I don't know if you consider Google Business Page a social media platform, but I mean, it kind of is. A lot of these social media platforms have the capabilities and have special labels. So you can label your business as part of a specific group. A great example for us would be on YouTube. We are labeled as minority creators.
I didn't even know that was a thing on YouTube.
Well, it's a good thing I'm the one who set up our channel
For the podcast, yeah.
for the podcast. Yes. Yes, we are labeled as a minority creator on YouTube for the podcast.
Interesting. I love that. It makes me think too that if these platforms like YouTube and also like Google Business Profile are allowing you to categorize your business as one of these, then obviously on the back end they're having to think about rolling out something like a resource attached to it. So that's a great insight and I think just kind of a future indicator of what we may see down the road from YouTube.
Yeah.
Because that's a fairly new one for me.
You know what? Because you did create the YouTube channel, 7 years ago, it does make sense. I'm sure that was not a thing 7 years ago. Yeah. So, those are some resources. Guys, if you have other resources that we didn't list, go ahead and leave them in comment section, send us a DM, all that stuff. Let's share that information so we can help other minority-owned businesses get out there. But I do want to say, before we start wrapping it up, it is so important as a small business to stand out. So, any edge that you can find that's going to help you get in front of your target audience, go for it. It's just really important to remember who your target audience is. Those are the people you want to talk to. And again, great example, Bray, she knows 1, her branding means that she cares about personalization. And 2, she knows her target audience and knows when to say, oh, yeah, I am a Black owned business. Oh, yeah, I am a woman owned business. But it's not something that she always needs to bring up. Great example of using your differentiation, your unique selling point, using that edge to go the extra mile when it comes to your customers and your target audience.
Yeah, and if you do take the time to get certified as any one of those, I do wanna say, like, from a marketing perspective, as a professional marketer, I definitely would say if you are paying to get certified, if you are going through that rigorous process, and then you get, like, you know, minority-owned business certification, I would put that on ads. I would put that on because you've already gone through it to be deemed as an organization that fits their criteria. So, don't, like Chelsea said, it's up to you guys whenever you're using this, but I would definitely lean in if you've taken the time to go through that process to utilize it to your advantage on, whether that be print ads or billboards or anything like that. Same thing with veteran owned.
Bray, I want to ask you kind of like a closing question to wrap up this conversation. For minority-owned businesses navigating their marketing, what's gonna be your number one tip? I know that's a loaded question, I'm sorry.
For navigating marketing for minority-owned businesses, I would just say, that's a good question.
Yeah. I have a tendency to whenever we're interviewing guests on here, I always give them, like, the most loaded question at the very end. I'm like, "Now I'm gonna get you."
You thought you were leaving here unscathed.
Yeah.
Just be open about
Mhm.
any type of marketing. Be out there.
Kudos to you because when we first started marketing together and stuff like that, you were really hesitant about being the face of a business.
Mhm.
And now you are, I know you're not telling everyone, you said you're not telling everyone, but you make it very clear who owns Sweet Rose Wax Co. Like, you
Right.
are not hiding behind the shadows. You show up on social media. You're doing the videos. Like you said, when people come in and because you still actually do all of your services, when people come in and they're with you, you're open about, hey, I am the owner.
hmm
Like, you're being very transparent.
Yeah. I want to be out there. I want people to see my face. I want people to know it's me
Mm-hmm.
and that I am the owner. And that's the best way that I think is with marketing is just be out there, be open,
Yeah.
let them know. I'm not saying just jump in their face like, hey, I'm the owner of this company, but
Yeah.
if they ask, yes, I am the owner.
Mhm.
That's why you see me bouncing here, there,
Yeah.
and I'm helping with everything. I'm on top of everything, and that's the best way I think to do it is just being there and showing up.
I think that helps too, that you're approachable to people. So that way, if they do, it gives an opportunity for open communication. If let's say there was like a little mishap or something in communication, but then they feel instead of writing a review about it or instead of going somewhere else and telling someone, they have direct access to you to say like, "Hey, by the way, during check-in this happened," or whatever, and I think that's where, as small business owners, sometimes we miss the mark where it's like, if we separate ourselves too much from it, then you don't have a good handle on, like, that open communication line and just saying like, "No, bring me the great feedback, also bring me anything that wasn't so great so that I can fix it immediately," right?
Right. And that's a big thing I let all my clients know. I can't fix what I don't know. So if you come to
Yes.
me and talk to me about it, I'll be able to fix it. I can help you with it. But if I don't know, then I can't fix it. With clients checking out, I'm always at the desk. How was your service? And that's the first question I ask. After each service, how was your service? Not just me, but my girls as well. How was your service? Even if we were the one that just waxed you, I'm going to ask you anyway. And I really would appreciate an honest answer.
Have you ever had someone be like, not so good?" Like when you've done stuff and like, "Don't answer
Yeah,
that." I'm just
honestly, they have.
yeah.
Ask Chelsea, they'll tell you that it's like, oh, it hurts so bad. She was the worst, but I'm coming back next
Uh,
month.
yeah,
Like
they're like, "Just
always,
put me with
always just
somebody else."
yeah. But I have that. Like some clients, they'll tell me, yeah, it hurt, but you did
Mhm,
great. You talked me through it. Same thing with my girls. It hurt. It's not going to be a comfortable feeling, but
Mhm.
it was worth it. I'm coming back. I love you guys. Things like that. I love the positive feedback, but I also love the bad, the bad too. Like I want to fix it. What can I fix? And I even ask my employees the same thing. What can we fix? What can I do different? What do you think about this? I keep an open communication with not just the employees but the clients as well.
constructive feedback is always very important. I feel like, you know, and it's funny because I always feel like the businesses that could use the constructive feedback are the businesses that are like, no, we're doing everything perfect. It's like, guarantee you, you're not.
Right.
Always room for improvement. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think that was our conversation today. Thank you, Bryce, so much for coming on here again and, you know, giving us your time. I know you're busy with the spa. So, y'all, Bray is the owner of Sweet Rose Waxing Company in downtown Somerville. Bray, is there anything you want to shout out?
Thank you, ladies, again for having me. I really appreciate y'all. Again, if you want me on again, just ask me and I'll be here.
Yeah.
My business is Sweet Rose Waxing Company at 437 North Main Street. Stop in, give me a call, 843-285-5981, or look us up, Sweet Rose Wax Co. on all platforms.
Well, thank you so much, Bray. It was a great conversation. And y'all, if you're a minority-owned business, just consider, you know, shouting that out and saying, hey, you know, just so you know, Vivian and I are Hispanic. In case you didn't know, they do come in that color.
We come in all shades.
If you have time, pretty please leave us a review and go be the best SOB you can be.